Hi guys, Tugri here with a new video, and this video is a early ultimate class picking guide video for TBC Classic. And why do I do that early? Because we are currently in Classic on the anniversary servers, and we have pretty much 6 months, 7 months, maybe 8 months max of Classic, and then we will have TBC. So the best way to prepare for TBC is to level your characters, maybe get some gear from like raids or PvP or whatever you want to do, and then prepare mentally for TBC, which is going to be great. I am looking forward to TBC, and to be fair, I'm playing way more private servers these days just to already have the feel of TBC than Classic. So I've been playing all the classes because I wanted to make this video as precise as possible. I am not like the expert for every single class, but I can give you a pretty good idea on what to expect in PvE, what to expect in PvP, and what to expect in overall like class spec feel. So I'm gonna start with Priest. Yes, Priest. Priest is awesome in TBC. I think a lot of people are like leveling Priests in Classic with TBC in mind, with especially Shadow Priest in mind. I think it is great to be a Shadow Priest. If you're thinking about PvE, you want at the very least, one Shadow Priest and maybe two because you are the mana battery. So it's not only about the DPS. The DPS is very serviceable at the start of TBC and gets worse with time because it doesn't have like great scaling, it doesn't have like dots critting and whatnot. That's for later expansions. But in TBC, your primary goal is to be the mana battery. So with Vampiric Touch, you're going to be able to give 5% of the shadow damage you have been doing on the enemy as mana back to the party. And what you want to do is put a Shadow Priest on the healing group so they could get the mana from your damage, and it is as valuable as maybe sometimes a healer. So since you are going to make them less likely to be um, overall it is like fantastic coming from vanilla to TBC because you are really wanted. And the thing that is also very good is you have Misery, which is a raid wide 5% more damage to spells, and you have obviously the 10% shadow damage increase from your shadow weaving to your warlocks, which, as you may know, is a class that you do want to stack. So you have like shadow warlocks and you have like SNF. So you have a fiction warlock for the debuffs and the buffs that you have with imp, for example, and then you have the SNF warlocks, which are like the 40 points in destruction warlock, something like that, and 21 points into demonology warlock. Again, I don't know like everything from heart, but I think it's like a 0-0 21-40 build that you play with the two other warlocks in your raid. A raid is consistently going to be 25 men, and you have obviously the small scale dungeons for heroics, but that is something that can be like viable for any class, to be fair. But Shadow Priest is going to be fantastic for that because you're boosting the warlocks, you're boosting the shadow damage in general, you are a mana battery, and you have huge utility as well with dispels, offensive and defensive. Overall, you want to have a priest in your raid at least, and I would say two priests if you want to be very mana efficient, and depending on the raids and the progression you have. Now in PvP it gets a bit better because Fear Ward is going to be like baseline. Again, I play Alliance, so I don't know how it's for Horde. Devour Plague is still not a thing for dwarves and humans, unfortunately. So you don't have that. But I'm still talking about Shadow Priest. Shadow Priest is going to be fantastic at BG, for example. In BGs, it's going to be very fun to play Shadow Priest. And in 3v3, it is also very interesting if you play like the right comps. You can play also 5v5. There it's like less interesting, I would say, to play Shadow Priest. That's my opinion. In 2v2, you can play double DPS. Now, double DPS Shadow Priest is very different than playing with a healer. Obviously, with a healer, it's going to be a bit difficult to win because you don't have a great you don't have a more strike effect. You don't really have like great burst. You have burst, but your mana is really limited as well. Because again, you cannot really use consumes in arenas. But if you're playing with double DPS, you can play with a rogue, and with the CC combined from the rogue and your CC, you can actually win in the openers. You can win. You can also off-heal pretty correctly as well, and you are going to be a dispel machine. And in a lot of matchups, these spells are going to make you win the game. Mass Dispel is a thing in TBC, so the mages are going to cry versus you, uh, paladins as well. Overall, I really enjoy priest in TBC, and that's why I actually leveled priest in classic, and which I'm actually playing way more on classic right now on my priest, because I get like the feeling that I'm going to have a lot of fun on priest in TBC. But that's for like shadow priest. If you're thinking about like disc priest, that's like at least one of them is going to be in the raid for divine spirit, for the spirit buff. I don't know how deep you go in disc priest as disc priest in PvE. I do believe that you could maybe play with PI. That could be interesting, especially if you're putting on the main caster. That's like actually very good. And then you have like most people are going to go Circle of Healing in as a Holy Priest, which has like great AoE capacities. And it's way more mobile than the rest of Shaman spamming Shane Heal. But in general, I would say that it is also very valuable to get priests in your raid, so it's going to be very desirable. In PvP, Disc Priest is like it's crazy good. I think pain suppression is such like a big thing because not a lot of healers, not a lot of DPS has like pure damage reduction, and that is really big. And you get also a dispel protection on it, so it's very strong. It doesn't have penance, so it's not like the Wrath of the Lich King version of a priest, but you are a mana burn machine, and what makes you win in arenas is often by mana burning the healer or caster, and you have like a 2 second mana burn, so it's very strong as well. And it does some damage, but it's like not for the damage you're going to do that. You're going to do that to mana burn the enemy, so you could win, and the matches are not going to be too long. In 2v2, it's going to be like that as well. In 3v3 as well, and in 5v5 as well. PGs, it's going to be quite fantastic to heal as Disc Priest or as a Holy Priest. You could also play a Smite Priest in raids. It's going to be stronger, I would say, damage-wise than a Shadow Priest, but you will lack the utility from Vampiric Touch. So you're not going to be able to like be a Smite Priest every single time. You could maybe go as a Smite Priest into raids, but that's more likely because raids are going to be a bit more relaxed. In general, they're going to ask you if you want a DPS to go Vampiric Touch, like Shadow Priest in general, so you could actually be a mana battery instead of like having better damage. But Holy Fire Smite, you can do that in BGs, you can do that in arenas as well, even though like again it's very high risk. And you could also play like in raids, like a Smite Priest. That's also a possibility. But overall, do I say to level a priest and to go into TBC as a priest? Yeah, I think it's like one of the best classes you could level in Classic, which has value in Classic and goes beyond that in TBC. You're stacking Warlocks, you're stacking obviously one of the best classes in the game with multiple specs that are very viable in PvE and PvP. You're going to be a machine in general in 1v1s as well, because priest in 1v1 is very strong. You have a silence, you have a fear, you have vampiric touch, you have your Shadow Word Death, which I didn't even talk about right now. The Shadow Word Death is one of the reasons why it feels so good to play TBC, because you can actually def polymorphs, you can def some CC, blinds for example. You can also like finish off targets. Mind Blast into Shadow Word Death is like a huge amount of damage on someone, especially whenever they're low HP, they're just getting deleted. And I think the gameplay is quite fun. Now, you don't have mobility, that's true. You don't really have that much like survivability, except like pure passive, like for example Inner Fire, your self heals and whatnot. But you don't have Dispersion, which is something you get in Wrath of the Lich King, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not mistaken, I think you do get in Wrath of the Lich King, and so you're going to miss on that critical self build that you could have in Wrath, which you don't have in TBC. But overall, it is a version plus compared to Classic. It's already one of the best healers in Classic, like gameplay wise. It gets even better in TBC. And same for Shadow Priest, where you have a lot of buttons to press actually to deal some DPS. And the thing that really just lacks from Shadow Priest is being able to have a haste buff on your dots, or AOE, because you don't really have AOE unfortunately, except like Shadow Word painting everyone. Um, or you don't also have crits on your dots, so you don't have that much scaling going into the raids, while other classes have better scaling or have like crazy amount of damage just with dots plus their shadow bolt, for example, a affliction warlock. So yeah, this is like a very high recommend for me to you guys to play TBC Priest. Now let's talk about Druid, which is also a fan favorite class for me. I told you guys I'm going to make a short video, but it is not a short video, it's already 10 minutes. I'm going to try to be faster. Druid, again, Restoration Druid is their their best, one of the best forms in the classic expansions. Restoration Druid in TBC is great S tier healer in arenas, in BGs, and even in raids you want to have at least one Restore Druid, because it's one of the best raid like tank healers with like Life Bloom, Rejuve, Regrowth on the tank, and then you have obviously your spells that you can also use for raid healing, which is also very important. You could play with Tree of Life, or you can play Dream State Druid. In PvP, it is just like fantastic how much mobility you have, and also how much CC you have, because you have Cyclone, which is really strong. That's one of the reasons probably where you can actually say that Druid is really meta in like pure PvP combat. And then in PvE, you're going to have a great time as a Restoration Druid. As a Balance Druid, you want at least one of them in raids, and that's going to be like very different from what you have known from past, like with Classic, where Balance Druid are like seen as a meme or like a mascot or whatever. This is at least like something you really want, because your Fire gives it like more damage to your melees. Obviously you get also like some spell crit, which is also very big. And in overall sense, Boomkin, the word Boomkin comes from TBC. That's where you have like those big Starfire crits. The gameplay is not stellar because you only have like Wrath, Starfire, Moonfire, Insect Swarm. You don't have a lot of the things that you get from Wrath of the Lich King and onwards, but it does its job. And in PvP it is very fun in BGs, very strong in BGs actually. In arenas, you're going to be the target, but you can do some good 2v2 double DPS comps. You can also play with a healer, where the healer is a bit more offensive as well. That's also possible. You could also play 3v3 with like LSD, for example, LSD2 with like a Restore Shaman, a Balanced Druid, and then a Lock. That's actually a very, very good comp, where you have a lot of front-loaded damage, but also a lot of the dot damage that you have in general, and you are like really, really comfortable in this position. But it doesn't like bring the same feel as, for example, in Cataclysm, where you have like Star Surge and whatnot. Here you don't have that, so obviously it is a bit different. You don't have Eclipse, so it's a gameplay switch. It is still not the final form for Balance Raid, but it's way better than in Classic. And in raids you have a spot like 100%, or at least that spot is very, very justifiable if you have like enough casters, for example. Feral Druid, on the other hand, raiding Feral Druid, it is not that good. You lack a few things. Now, you do bring more damage to bleeds, but bleeds in TBC is not to the point where you really want to play around that. Well, for example, not like Feral Druids are going to play around that. I'm not going to say that, but the other classes in your raid are not really playing around bleeds. Like for example, Rent still does no damage in TBC. Well, it gets better with time, especially if you're thinking Wrath of the Lich King. At that point, you really want to have a Feral Druid, because it's also very strong for AoE. It's also very strong in general for the single target, and you can also do a pretty much like a good job as a referral druid in Wrath of the Lich King. But in TBC, it's not that desirable. So you're going to be even lower on the priority list to bring a feral druid. Now, a tank druid is something else. Like, I think the tank feral druid is one of the best tanks you can get into dungeons, into raids as well. It scales immensely well. It's also very, very tanky, and you have some big damage for a tank. So that's a possibility as well. With Mangle being like a thing, you have Laceration as well. You can bring a lot of threat, so that's good. And you are not that you are not as dependent of MCPs, which you have in Classic, which you don't have in TPC. So that's the thing. In PvP though, PvP Feral Druid is very, 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 very good. I personally am very, very much a fan of a Feral Druid in PvP. In arenas, it is like very possible for you to be doing very good. You can play Feral Druid with a Rogue, you can play Feral Druid with a Hunter, you can play Feral Druid with a Priest, like a Disc Priest or a Shadow Priest. You have multiple comps that you can play, and in 3v3 the same. Like jungle is still going to be high on the list with a Holy Paladin or with a Holy Priest or a Disc Priest, excuse me. Or you can play even with a Resto Druid, which is not fantastic, but it's still like a thing that you can do as well. I personally think Feral Druid is like really a glow up from Classic to TBC when it comes to PvP. Mangle is such a thing, that's such a strong ability that brings more damage to your shred, more damage to your dots, that it makes you very much a lethal weapon compared to like what's happening in Classic. You are also very mobile, you have Cyclone still. It's really, really good. Now, is it like Wrath of the Lich King good? No, because it doesn't have Berserk. I think Berserk, if you had Berserk in TBC, it would be like really OP, but you don't have that, so it is what it is. In BGs, you're going to have a lot of fun, like Stealth class is always fun, and I think it's definitely a class to main if you want to play Druid, you should go for that. Especially if you're thinking for Resto Druid or Balance Druid, like it's literally a step up from Classic. And Feral Druid is also a step up in PvP, but in PvE, I would say it's more the same because your damage is on the lower end and you don't really have that much utility compared to what is going to happen on the next expansions. Rogue. Now I played Rogue, I played Assassination Rogue, I played Subtlety Rogue. I didn't play combat, so obviously PvE, my knowledge is quite limited. From what I know, people play Ticket Rogue for Imp Sunder, like Imp Exposed Armor, which is not always ideal because it makes you not unable to Sunder. Because it will be written that there is a stronger effect on the target, so you kind of ruin Protection Warriors. Now, if you don't run a Protection Warrior, you don't really care about that. You play with a Protection Paladin and a Guardian Druid, for example, like a Feral Druid, excuse me, for example, in your raids, then you will definitely need to have a Rogue to have that Imp Exposed Armor. But overall, their DPS starts quite low, but gets better with phases, especially with Black Temple. If you do get the legendaries, like that is like a big boost to your damage. But I expect that not everyone will get the legendary. It is just what it is at the end of the day. You can have a lot of fun in PvE, but I would say most of the fun, or most people that are playing Rogue, they are thinking about PvP right now, especially if you're like on the PvP server. You took Rogue to probably play Rogue right now or in TBC. TBC Rogue is like fantastic. It still has a lot of CC. It has Cloak of Shadows, so now like mages and whatnot, they cannot really stop you if you don't want to get stopped. Now it is with a CD, so it's not like it's not like the class is unstoppable. You can play most likely, and you will play Subtlety Rogue because of Shadow Step. That's the most likely like thing that makes you want to play Subtleties because of the mobility option that you get with Shadow Step and preparation and whatnot. It's always going to be good. But Assassination Rogue was also quite fun. I played a bit of Assassination Rogue. I think the damage is really, really high if you do like a big envenom. It is on the higher side of the damage that you can get on a as a rogue. But sometimes the damage is not everything you want from a rogue. You want to have the CC availability, you want the mobility, you want to be able to blind without it breaking. If you're playing assassination, you're going to play deadly poison, and you would probably like cancel your blind if you're blinding someone that is damaged by you. You have Shiv, which is super strong as well. Like I think in general, Rogue is the ultimate PvP class if you're thinking about like arenas, PGs. Like TBC Rogue is like the top end, like fun wise, and also like prestation. Like I still think you can like do very well on Rogue, and you can go high rated if you are like committed in arenas, which is not as easy on every single class. uh, Talking about Warrior, now Warrior is like a step down from Classic to TVC. If you're thinking about PvE at least, you are going to have a tougher time because it is not a stackable class. Uh, you want maybe max 2, maybe 3, depending on how, like someone is stacking or not. Ideally, you want to have an arms warrior to buff the physical damage dealers, and that will depend on the physical damage dealers. But it doesn't have that much scaling because again, Mortal Strike is not a scaling ability compared to Bloodthirst. So you still will want to go Fury if you want to be top end damage. Now, if you only have one warrior, they're going to be asked to go arms to get that debuff, like 4% increased physical damage on the enemy, uh, obviously. But like if you have two warriors, you can ask one to go Fury and the other one to go arms, and you can do interchangeable if you want to parse or whatnot. That depends on what the raid wants to do with you. Arms is like still a poor skill in PvE, but in PvP it is the class that you want because it has a more strike effect. You can go sweeping strikes, which is again very strong in TBC. It's a lower duration, so you will have to cramp up all the abilities on that time. You could also play with Slam in PvP, which reduces 1 second of Slam, so you are going to be like bursting people with that. If you have like a a rich pool, you can actually like slam, Moral Strike, and like destroy someone. Overall, I find in PvP to be more fun than in Classic, so I'm happy to have leveled my warrior. I'm happy to be already geared for my warrior, and I'm like ready to go TBC right now. You get Spell Reflect, Intervene. You get like so much goodies that you didn't have in Classic. It will make you feel better with playing Warrior. Now, Fury Warrior, I think PvP wise, it is not like as good as Arms because you don't have the more strike effect. But I kind of liked how it plays because again, you can play like haste weapons. You can play a build that is like heavily damage dealing, depending on the gear you have. And Bloodthirst does a lot of damage. You have an AP buff Rampage that you can put like every single time because every time you're going to crit, you use that and you will get a lot of AP for 30 seconds, and that is like something you can scale. But I would say if you want to do arenas and you want to like rank up, you still will want to go arms, and that's for sure. Now about protection war is not as like phenomenal as in Classic. I think a lot of people that are playing warrior, they're going to be falling from very high whenever they're going to be in TBC. You can and you will be able to tank, that's not an issue, but I think the top end guilds are going to step away from protection warrior very, very fast, and they're going to bring either a feral druid or they're going to bring a protection paladin, where literally it is one of the best, if not the best, tank in the game. um, yeah, I think it really depends. It depends on how you see the game, and if you want to be like more casual, if you're a hardcore speedrunner or whatever, that will all depend on what classes you bring in the raids. In PvP, Protection Warrior is not that good. Like, it's like serviceable if you're facing rogues, whatnot, but like it's not as good as, for example, Wrath of the Lich King Protection Warrior, where you can one-shot people. Here in TBC, you're going to be able to play a Reflect build, and that's it. So you're going to kill rogues, but like everything else, you're going to have a tough time. Hunter. So Hunter is the ultimate warrior class in TBC. And yes, I said warrior class because it is going to be seen as the warrior in Classic. So you want to have like as much hunters as possible, like warlocks as well. Going 2 or 3 hunters per raid, which is a 25-man raid, right? For example, is not uncommon. You want to have a survival hunter for exposed weakness, and you want most likely to have like the other 2 to go BM to get the party buff from the BM tree, which is I think 3% or 4% extra damage. It's really big. Overall, it is really strong. For example, this is like needed. The Ferocious Inspiration, which gives you 3% increased damage to your party members, and Survival Hunter has Exposed Weakness, which is also very big because it increases the attack power of all attackers against the target by 25% of your agility. So you can already understand it is doing incredible damage for your whole raid, because it is against the target. So every party member, every raid member is going to get that 25% increased attack power from your agility, which is immense. 25% of your agility as attack power, excuse me. So for example, right now I am PvP geared. I have 422 agility. You get 25% of that. It is pure AP that you're going to give to your whole raid. While for example, True Shot Aura is only limited to the party, this is going to be literally for the whole raid. So it's going to be more efficient to have a Survival Hunter and the other one to be BM, or like the 2 others to be BM to get Ferocious Inspiration, which is also very needed. And you have like insane amount of damage with this class. So you will want to stack them in raids and in your parties. Like you want to have maybe 1 hunter in your heroics dungeons just for those buffs if you have like a very melee heavy comp, for example. In PvP, it is like fantastic. I think you can play all 3 specs. Depends on what you want. You can play like survival to have like readiness. You can play MM for the silence, which is also very cool versus like mages. Or you can play BM, especially at the first season. BM is really strong because the pet finally scales. And you already understand, like in SOD level 25, the pet scaled, and you could literally get 1v1 by the pet itself. But that's the same for TBC. In TBC, if you pop like Bishop Wrath, you have your inner beast. It's unstoppable. Literally, that pet is going to wreck you if you're a caster. I think Hunter is one of the most flavorful classes in the game. But obviously, some people are going to say, it feels the same if you're playing BM or MM and Survival. And yes, in the grand scheme of things, it does play the same. And it is not as different as, for example, Fire, Frost, or Arcane Mage. But I think the different specs are going to be flavorful enough for you to enjoy your time. Like MM with the silence is really big. A BM with like the Bishop Wrath is also very fun to play around. And readiness for Survival Hunter is like really cool because you will never be lacking CDs. And in arenas you could play survival very well depending on the comp you're playing. Like for example, if I'm playing Hunter, which there is a chance where I'm playing Hunter, I'm going to play like Beastcleave, so with an Enhancement Shaman, with you as a BM Hunter, and then a healer, it can actually do very well. So I really like that. And in Wrath of Lich King, it becomes even better with Feral Spirit. So I really like Hunter currently in TBC. Also think like your kill command, you have loads of things, for example traps in combat. It really is fun to play, and it is a step up from Classic, that's for sure. Now Shaman, it is literally the most stackable class in the game for TBC. If they change nothing, and I hope they do not change nothing, because I think that's not the thing that makes a TBC bad. I think stacking Shamans is not bad, because why would you not change the stacking of warriors in Classic, but you want to change the stacking of Shamans in TBC? Now, I understand it's very annoying to find Shamans, but let the Shaman shine. You have Bloodlust, you have the Totem party buffs that you have, Resto Shaman, Elemental Shaman, Enhancement Shaman, all playable. If you could not stack Shamans, most likely you're going to end up with for just one Shaman that is going to buff everyone that you can, maybe two Shamans, Elemental Shaman and Enhancement Shaman, and you would maybe not get any Restoration Shaman. I don't know. But overall, I really enjoy the fact that you can play all three specs, and it's going to be all three very viable in PvP and in PvE. In PvE, it is really, really strong and very strongly recommended to have like two enhancement shamans depending on how many physical damage dealers you have, because you get a 10% attack power buff from enhancement shaman, which is very big. You get also obviously the damage from enhancement shaman, which is also on the higher end, so it's an A tier kind of damage that you can propose. It is on the harder, like, because you will have to totem twist, so it's not really that fun to do so, but I think it's still like a fun gameplay if you like training on that and you are succeeding on that. You can play in PvP two-hander or dual wield. I still like my two-hand enhancement shaman. I know it's like not that viable, but like one popping people is really, really fun. Wind Fury is still like very, very much something. When you are comparing it with retail, retail is a joke compared to that. Like Wind Fury in TBC is like unbreakable PvP montage levels of damage that you can actually do. I really enjoy that. Elemental Shaman is a beast. Like in BGs, you can like destroy anyone. In arenas, you are most likely the target, and you are not really doing like the lava burst that you can have in Wrath of the Lich King. You don't have that here. But your Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt does a lot of damage, your Shocks do a lot of damage. You can also have Wind Fury on your dagger, and you can also do a bit of melee with that. You can also like play around that. You're very tanky if you have it, because you have a shield. And in general, I like the fact that you have totems for any situations, which is, for example, Grounding Totem. And if you're playing with a warrior, putting Wind Fury, and boom, that guy gets a Wind Fury proc, and it is GG's over, go next. And I like that. In PvP at least. In PvE, like Enhancement Shaman, Elemental Shaman, they have their place. Restoration Shaman, they have their place. I think that's what I like about Shaman, is that you can literally be needed and wanted, and you can play any spec because you are needed and wanted. And if they are like saying go healer and you don't want to go heal, you can say ciao, I'm getting a group. Like the instant I say Shaman looking for a guild, I'm getting like 10 whispers, because it is literally how needed it is to get a Shaman in your group, because it is a huge DPS increase, a huge easiness with Bloodlust as well. I think it's just a great thing going on that you are missing if you don't play Shaman. And I am going to level a Draenei, that's for sure. I didn't do that in 2019, like 2021 with TBC coming out, and I don't want to regret. So I'm gonna play a Shaman. I'm going to level a Shaman. I hate Draenei. It is what it is. But I enjoy the gameplay of Shaman. I think Shaman is fantastic. So a PvP Restoration Shaman, Hazard comes. You can play like LSD, like I said, like LSD2 with Boomy and an Affliction Warlock. You can do that. You could also play like in melee cleaves. That's also very good. You are very much an asset, because you're dealing also a lot of damage as a resto shaman, excuse me, with Chain Lightnings and Lightning Bolts. You can do some pretty good damage as well if you have time to cast that. With your shocks as well, with your dispels. You have Grounding Totem, which is big. I really enjoy Shaman. And Elemental Shaman, it's very, very good, like I said, but you're going to be the target in your arena matches. But you're going to probably play Elemental Shaman in 5v5, because it's going to be very strong and very fun to do Chain Lightning and like destroying multiple people at the same time. And Enhancement Shaman is definitely way more a thing in PvP and TBC than in Classic, because it has way more at their disposal, and you have a big damage reduction ability with Shamanistic Rage, which is not available to any class. Like not every class has like a big damage reduction available to themselves. So I really enjoyed that as well. Paladin, Retribution Paladin is also needed in raids, so you are going back from a meme to a little staple in your raids. You can Seal Twist, you can learn Seal Twist, and some people like it, some people don't. I personally didn't really like to Seal Twist, but I understand like if you get the hang of it and you understand that, you can do some incredible damage with that. I also think the gameplay is way better than Classic because you have Crusader Strike. Not only that, it feels like way better to play in general. You have some good CC, and you are desired in raids, which like you will want maybe one Retribution Paladin. You want to have at least 3 or 4 Paladins for buffs, if I'm not mistaken. That's something that is going to be pretty needed. Like a protection paladin is like literally the reason why people are playing paladin right now for TBC, because it is one of the most fun experiences you can have when tanking. You can also boost people. You can also make gold with protection paladin. It's like it's incredible to play protection paladin. Retribution paladin bringing blessings, refreshing judgments. You really want to have a retribution paladin in general for like the judgment of wisdom or judgment of the crusader to be refreshed with a crusader strike, which you don't have. For example, if you don't have a retribution paladin, you will need a holy paladin or a protection paladin to be very close to the target to be able to refresh those judgments. Obviously, protection paladin is going to be able to do that, but he has maybe multiple targets where you have not the chance to refresh as easily. You will bring like blessings in general. I would say holy paladins are like still the tank healer. That's for sure. You really want that because again you recuperate mana whenever you're critting, and that's still a thing. You can play Shokadin, and that's when Shokadin has been known for in TBC. Like you can explode people, but you really need the specific gear as well. I think Paladin is on the right side of things. I don't know if I want to play Paladin because I did that on the previous TBC. Not TB. I didn't play TBC actually, so but I played in Raft like Paladin, and I don't want to really go back to Paladin because I already seen that. And the only class where I can say, or the only 2 classes where I can say like I want to see it back are Hunters and Druid, because I think it's like a phenomenal like class combination compared to Paladin. In PvP, like again, it's on the better side. You can play double DPS. You can play like again T's like you can play with a warrior. Red's War is also still a thing, but in general, you're going to have a problem versus mages where they can spell steal you. Can spell steal your bobs. They can spell steal even your your wings, which is very annoying. But overall, it's a better time to play Retribution Paladin in TBC than in Classic, so it's a straight upgrade. Not every single class is a straight upgrade, like for example Warrior, in PvE for example, while in PvP, in PvE, Retribution Paladin is just like straight up a better level than in Classic. Reckoning is gone, by the way. So yeah, you cannot wreck bomb in TBC, but it's fine. I think it's on the better side. Well, Warlock, the ultimate TBC class, Seed of Corruption, guys. Seed of Corruption. Just for that reason, I think you might just want to play Warlock in PvE. In raids, you want to stack them, so 3 or 4 Warlocks. 1 Warlock for Imp, and for the damage reduction, I think. Physical damage reduction in the Affliction tree, if I'm not mistaken, and the rest is going to go destruction, like 40 points and 21 points into Demonology Warlock. In PvP, SLSL, Siphon Life with a Soul Link, is one of the most tankiest classes in the game. Very annoying to kill, and it's also very strong. In general, a top class. Like, I could talk literally a full video about Warlock and how good it is compared to Classic. I'm not gonna do that. I think in general, if you want to have like a great time, play TBC Warlock. Like you will have a spot in raids, you will have a spot in PvP. You have multiple comps you can play. Rogue Warlock is super fun to play in 2s. You can play in 3s as well. You can play in 5s. You can play BGs. You can do raids. You can do heroics. You are desired. You are the class with Hunter. Like Hunter and Warlock are the DPS class when coming to raid, heroics, PvP, and everything combined. It is for sure still a TBC Warlock, so it doesn't have the mobility. It is vulnerable to specific things, but it's a lot better. And you can even play Destruction Warlock, which with Shadow Fury is super phenomenal as well. You can deal some great damage as well. It doesn't have like the Immolate protection where if your Immolate conflag, the Immolate stays. You don't have that, unfortunately, but it still does a lot of damage. Shadow Burn, your conflag, your Incinerate is also very fun as well. I think in general the gameplay is also refreshing because you can play Affliction and Destruction, and those two are different from one another. So I really like that. The only thing that you will not like as Warlock, and that is always going to be a thing, Soul Shards. Soul Shards, Soul Shards, Soul Shards, for PvP, for PvE, for everything you're going to do. You will need to stack them every time you're going to do an activity. So yeah. Do I plan to level a Warlock? Now, in my mind, I have my priest level 60, I have my warrior level 60, I have my druid level 60. It is really between hunter and warlock to level right now on classic, and once the pre-patch comes out, I'm leveling a shaman. Like, there is no contest. Now, are they going to put a boost or not? If they put a boost, I might boost one of them. And yes, you can like do whatever you want, but I like to spend money to gain time when it comes to boost, because again, the 160 in pre-patch is okay, but for me it doesn't really matter. I just want to be able to play the class I want to play in TBC. So using one boost is not going to be like problematic, and it just makes me more content as well. But I understand like some people are not wanting to use the boost, but I like to have like that one boost usage for a class that I have like maybe not the motivation to level from 1 to 60. So I might use that on the pre-patch as well. Mage, very, very strong. Yeah, the ultimate PvP class as well. So if I have to say the top 3 like ultimate PvP classes, there are Rogue, Warlock, and Mage. And obviously, if you're thinking about healers, it's going to be Disc Priest and Restoration Druid. They're like the top 5, and then you have like everything a bit lower. Mage is like strong because you can play double DPS. You can play with a healer. You can play like 3s. You can play 5s. It is squishy or not, I don't know. I think it's mainly because you can actually get Mouse Dispelled on Ice Block, and that feels like unsafe. You cannot really do what you do in Classic. But overall, it is very flavorful. I'm going to say I don't really like Frost Mage, and Frost Mage in raids, if I'm not mistaken, sucks. You want to play either Arcane or Fire. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken, huh? Don't shoot me. But Frost Mage in raids is not that good. You're not going to play Frost Mage. You're going to play most likely Fire or Arcane. In PvP, Frost Mage is king though. But I prefer to play Pompyro, so with Arcane power. That's my jam. Or I play Deep Fire. I like Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath with like your Fire Blast and your fire, like your Blast Wave. It's a lot of instant damage that you can do to someone that is melee to you. And yes, you're squishy, but you get also like a moon speed buff whenever you're going to get touched. You have like a 10% chance on getting the movement speed buff. It feels very cool to play. Like I think that if I play mage, the only reason would be to play fire. Arcane is okay, it's aight, but it's like you don't have Arcane Barrage, so it's still very mobile compared to like other expansions. Arcane Blast does a lot of damage, but you have to like it's a long cast, so it's not as interesting as you might think. And I prefer to play fire or frost. Now that's why you have dual spec. It's very fun. You can be deep fire and you can go deep frost and you can have a great time, and that's also very fun as well. There's also a few combinations you can play. You can play Pompyro, you can play maybe a combination with Frost Mage and Fire. You can also do a combination of Frost Mage with Arcane. You have a lot of things that you can play around and have fun with, but overall I think Mage is also a great choice if you come to think about raiding or PvP. In raids you want to have at least one Mage, maybe two. They're blasted, but their mana is usually the problem if I'm not mistaken. But they do a lot of damage and they get better over time, especially with the phases going on. I think at the start mage is not that impressive, but it gets better over time. But you don't really want to stack either. So that's why I'm saying like mage and warlock, a warrior, they are like okay and good in PvE, but if you compare it to classic, in classic you can easily have 5 or 6 mages in raid. You can easily have 20 warriors even in raid, and it would be okay. But in TBC, you have 25 man, and that 25 man needs to be very valuable. So you don't want to like stack mages. You don't want to stack warriors because obviously you will miss a hunter, you will miss a mage, you will miss a warlock, you will miss a shaman maybe, you will miss a balanced druid, you will miss maybe a shadow priest or two, you will miss a retribution paladin. All the classes have their utility and they are wanted. So obviously if you're going to stack the wrong class that doesn't bring that much utility to the raid except a int buff, then it's like, and that's the thing, like if you compare to classic and TBC, the raid utility is the same. But the other classes have like a lot more raid utility, a lot more party utility, thinking about balance rate, thinking about elemental shaman, thinking about like exposed weakness from survival hunter, thinking about like shadow priest being the mana battery. You don't have those things as a mage. You don't have those things as a fury warrior, for example. That's gone. Like you're very selfish as a class. So you bring your own DPS, and your DPS might be top meter when coming like into raids, but you bring nothing increased to the other people in the raid. While, for example, that a Shadow Priest has 1.5k DPS and a Mage has 1.8k DPS, but the Shadow Priest brings mana to the healers, which makes it a lot easier to clean. So that 300 DPS loss between those two, you will always take a Shadow Priest with you if you have a choice between a Mage and a Shadow Priest, for example. And that's how I see. But if you're thinking about PvP, Mage, you should go directly. If you're thinking about PvE, if you have a good guild, maybe you're like the mage, you'll be having a spot, and especially if you're doing pugs, you will always find a spot somewhere. But you are not going to be as desired as the other classes are, and that you need to be understanding it. But I think if your PvP is like a big portion of your reason why you're playing TBC, well, mage is a good reason to play. Like it's a thing. Like it's a thing. It's top 3, at least top 3. You could even say top 2 of classes that are very good in TBC and like exceptionally good in PvP. So yeah, this is like my ultimate class picking guide. Hopefully you got a bit of insights from me. Hopefully you did learn something from me. I'm not perfect on every single class. I don't have perfect knowledge on every single class, but I do try to tell information that is not untrue. So if I have untrue information, or I told something that is maybe BS, it could be, or if I told something that is not complete, please let me know in the comment section below. Again, this is not like which classes are the best, which classes are the worst, but more like be prepared on what class you're going to pick, because those are the advantages in PvP, those are the advantages in PvE, and what are the negatives for both. So you can have an educational choice to pick the right class for this TBC, because I think this TBC is going to be awesome and it cannot come soon enough. Playing on Warmane has been fun. The truth is, it is still not a it's not a Blizzard client, so it's not as crispy and sometimes frustrating to have like those input lags that I will never have on a Blizzard client. But I'm having fun. I'm playing Classic, playing Warmane, and I'll be making a bit more TBC videos to prepare for TBC. I might remake this video once TBC is going to come out, so I have maybe a bit more insights about a few things here and there. But I think it's a good timing to prepare right now. We are like phase 4 in like 1 week, so I think if people want to level a class, I think it's the ideal moment to do it right now. Have a great day. Bye.